Hold on.
We'll post the recording afterwards, so those who missed it.
Sorry, guys.
A second. No, feedback. There we go. You good? Okay. So we'll just meet each week, and I'll usually go over something, just something to kind of help you motivation-wise or some takeaway type stuff. And then we'll open it up just for you guys to ask questions and stuff. But I know that this was the first week that we've really been doing this full force on a tracker, where I'm really going to go in and look at it and just make sure you guys are on track and hold you accountable to it. I will tell you personally, this has been a big help to me as well. I started doing this. I know some of you guys have know who Josh Coates is. Sonia went to Super Saturday and got to see him speak. But he's a push coach, and he tends to work with a lot of Beachbody coaches. And I did work with him for a few months last year, and he is the one that I got this tracker idea from. And so it wasn't like, oh, let me just make this up and put my coaches on a tracker. It has been proven to help you build momentum and get you focused on the right things, not to make you do more work or work longer hours. But if you really can just hone in on doing the things that are on the tracker, that's going to help you build some momentum. And so he's worked with, a lot of top coaches out there, anywhere from Melissa McAllister, Raina Odell, I'm going blank on her name. Who's the one who just had the baby? Sonia, do you know what I'm talking about? Michael Folsom. That's a girl. He was really trying to help her get in the top 10 last year. She was number 11. Her and Danielle Natoni were like this up until the last minute. So Danielle ended up getting top 10. Both of them are amazing and deserve to be there. So anyway, so he's worked with many teams and helped some coaches out there really raise the bar and get to where they want to be. And so I took what he was having us do with the tracker and have been applying that to working with my coaches that I know really do want to work the business. So this is not a group that I'm just like, hey, anybody on the team, come get on the tracker. I really wanted to work with people who I see showing up that have shown interest in working the business, and you guys who are in this group have definitely earned your way into that with the belief that you have and just conversations that we've had as well. I want you to know that if you feel a little bit overwhelmed with the tracker, and like Caitlin, I know you're a newer coach, so it does feel a little overwhelming at first. And I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, if I miss some things on there or I'm not getting this 100%, that you're failing. You're not, okay? It's just learning how to get better at it each week. You'll get faster at it. When we first started the tracker, it was so funny. So many of the girls in the group that I was with, they were like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, they didn't like being on the tracker at first, and it overwhelmed them. But over time, they really grew to love it. And in fact, when I did this group with a tracker with my group back in January, and then we did it for a couple of months, and it was going really well, and then we switched gears and did something else. They were all like, can we bring that back? Like, they liked it. It really was helping them. So one of the first things you guys, we have you work on is that the affirmations, and most of you shared your affirmations in our group. That really is very powerful to make sure that you are doing and reading and looking at on a regular basis and saying to yourself, so much of this business is mindset. Yes, we've got to take action, but if we're not taking action with the right mindset, we're not going to get anywhere. So many times, like, coaches are like, I'm doing all the things, I'm posting, I'm talking to people, but if their belief isn't there, that's something that has to shift. And I will tell you, there are days where, obviously my mindset is not as in a great a place as it could be, right? That's just normal. We're all human, and we're going to have our off days. And so plugging into groups like this helps with that energy and keeping you in the right place, and really and truly knowing that you're not alone in that feeling, I think is so powerful. I have some push type groups as well with some other coaches out there. And that makes me feel so much better when I can, share something I'm struggling with, and they're like, oh my gosh, me too. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm like not the only one who's having this issue or struggling getting over this hurdle with my team, or, I'm mentally, I'm struggling with this. So you're not alone. So I really do think that it helps to have a group like this. But those affirmations are very powerful. And getting into the mindset of just, if you want this to be a business, showing up and treating it like a business is important. And I'm not going to tell you that needs to look like you have to work 4 or 5 hours a day. Sonia works a full-time job. I know that she can't work this business that many hours a day. But whatever it is that you decide how your all in looks for you, go all in on that. And, I feel like the tracker asking to invite about 5 people a day, or however you want to break it up into the week. If it's 25 people all at once, that's fine. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable pace to be working at. If you can do more, awesome. But I love this quote. He says, you always want to think of it this way. I'll always work harder for anyone else. I always want to work harder for myself than I do anyone else. There we go. Because if you think of it this way, if we go to work for somebody else, we're helping someone else build their dreams and their goals, right? So you want to show up for yourself. If you're building a business, show up for yourself and work harder for yourself than you would for anybody else if this is important to you. So you're either going to show up to reach your goals or show up to help someone else reach theirs. And then the tracker is going to help you realize that, as humans, we are going to always give ourselves more the benefit of the doubt than we will others. Like, we're going to judge others based on the actions that we see them taking and showing up with. Whereas we're going to judge ourselves like, I showed up 2 days this week, but I had the intention of working this business every day, but you didn't actually do it. And so the tracker doesn't lie. For you to be able to fill that out and see exactly what you did during the week is pretty powerful. And you can look back and say, okay, this is what I'm missing. These are the places I need to improve on. And they're really just getting you into that action mode. So while this group, is not going to be a whole lot of training, because you guys can get training from National Wake Up Calls and listen to team calls. You can get them from YouTube. There's plenty of training. It's really just accountability, helping you guys get into that action mode. But during the question and answer time, if you have questions, ask anything. And then we'll do the weekly call out. I'll do that. I'll try to do it Sunday nights, try to be consistent with that. And then you'll have 48 hours just to catch it up the best you can, so you don't get removed from the group. Okay, so I know some of you listened to Josh Coates' call that he did for our team on Wednesday. I know some of us caught parts of it. I actually had to get off the end of it. But a lot of what he talked about then, I was going to go over some of that tonight too. He talked about the word urgency and how important that particular word is, if we can keep that in our mind, because it drives a whole lot of other behaviors. But he talks about, if we don't, let's see, sorry. We want to have some big goals in mind that create some kind of urgency, okay? So if our goal is, I just want to help one person this month. Yes, that's a great goal. We do want to help somebody, right? But in the longer you're a coach, the more you'll realize this. If your goal is always just Success Club 5, for example, what ends up happening that I see is it's not too difficult to find 3 people to get started with you. And then by the end of the month, it's like, okay, I need to get to Success Club 5. It's like it's May 25th. And I need to find 3 people. We wait because we didn't have that urgent feeling, and we waited till the end to really push to hit the goal. Does that make sense? So if you can figure out, what creates some urgency in you that's going to make you push harder every day versus waiting till the 25th of the month to finally step it up. So you need to set some sort of big, scary, hairy goal for yourself. Like for me, I'm still working on 15 star. Like, that's still a very scary big, hairy goal for me. And it still makes me nervous to say it out loud. I don't know why. Like, we are so close, but I'm still nervous because it's that fear of, well, what if we don't do it, right? It'll eventually happen. But I'm always setting a date. Okay, let's create some urgency to work towards that date and push for it. So, you know, or like this week, I told you, okay, I want to add 2 coaches to my team this month, and to this week, and I'm going to invite 5 people a day to my team. I don't know who those 5 people a day are going to be yet, but when we focus on it, when we set the goal and we focus on it, you'll figure out a way to do it. So, you know, if you're not hitting Success Club 5, you know, try to maybe move that goal up earlier in the month, that you make it more urgent to hit Success Club 5 by middle of the month, to create a little more urgency under your belt. Does that make sense? I think a big turning point for me when I was a newer coach, and I don't know what national wake-up call it was. This was years ago. But I heard someone speak on a national wake-up call that she made it the goal every month to hit Success Club by middle of the month. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I just shifted that, and I created that urgency in my invites. Now I'm more like, I'm going to hit Success Club 10 by the end of the first week. Like, I really just push myself to do that and get it locked in early. And that frees me up the rest of the month to, I still try to bring more people in, of course, but focus more on helping my team and also building relationships with new people as well. So, so maybe kind of set Success Club as a mid-month goal to kind of create a little more urgency and push and drive for you. So you want to figure out what is a big, hairy, scary goal. He calls them puke goals, but that kind of scares the crap out of you, because when we have those kind of goals that push us, that's what helps push you into growth mode. And, you know, when your team and your future team sees you starting to, and people are watching you even on social media, because Caitlin, she's just getting started. But as they start to see you working and doing things, that helps other people be like, oh, if she can do this, I can do this too, right? Same thing for your team. And as you start to grow a team, you'll realize your team is going to always do not always. Sometimes you'll find a rock star who's going to do more than you, but they'll do a percent of what you do, right? So if you're hitting Success Club 5, they may be hitting Success Club 2, okay? So to get your team to do more, you've got to raise the bar for yourself. So it's a big, scary goal to push you into urgency mode. And what that does, that urgency creates focus. If it's not challenging enough, then it's not forcing you into that focus mode. Like, okay, how am I going to do that? And then what it does is it helps create creativity, right? Because you're like, okay, I've got this big, scary goal. Okay, I've set a goal. I'm going to add 2 coaches in my team this month or this week. How am I going to do that? I'm going to get creative this week to figure out a way to make that happen. Urgency also demands ownership. Makes you take ownership for what you're doing, what you're building, and thinking about where you want to be down the road. Where do you want to be 5 years down the road from now? And really having that long-term vision, I think, is important. Like, it's important to have short-term goals, right, that are reachable. Because if your goal is like, well, I want to be making $200,000 or $300,000 a year. Right now, that may seem like, oh my gosh, like that seems way too far out, right? It's going to take some time to build that, so you can set milestone goals. But I think also having a vision of where you see your life in 5 years, what you would like to be doing, where you would like to be visiting and traveling with your family, where are you living, what is your house like, you know, where are your kids going to school, anything that's important to you and that you find valuable, having that vision for where you want to be 5 years, 10 years down the road is so important. Because that puts you in that long-term mindset. Because this is a business, and it's not always easy, right? Like, it's a fun business, but it's not easy. Like, we have to work at it. We have to show up. And so having that that long-term vision of where you want to be is what's going to make you do that, even on the days when you don't feel like it. I mean, there's days I don't feel like getting out of bed at 5 in the morning and doing my power block, but I do it anyway because I do have that long-term vision, and I'm continuing to build that. My long-term vision, and most of y'all probably know my story, but was to allow Greg to walk away from the military. I wanted it to be his choice, but if that's what we felt was the best thing for our family, that he would have the ability to do that. And so that was always my long-term vision, and to be able to settle down by our family here in Texas. Like, I was tired of the constant moving. And so that's what drove me all these years to be able to get him out. And so we are here now. And now my vision is, okay, I got to keep this thing going because Greg's not going to have a very big paycheck for the next few years. So I'm it. Tag, you're it. But it's such a blessing that we've been able to do that, you know. It's just because of consistency. I don't have any kind of special skills or anything like that as a coach. I just have been one who just shows up every day and does the things I'm supposed to do to move my business forward. So, and I think that this is really powerful too, is having, you know, if you all have kids on here tonight, but just knowing that I can make the decision to tell my kids yes or no on something because I'm choosing to say yes or no versus, well, we can't go do this or enroll you in this because we don't have the money to do it. You know, I want it to be more of a decision that I'm making, not forced to make because of income. So anyway, just thinking about some of those things that are important to you that helps you have that focus and demands ownership in what you're doing. All right. So that's the main thing I wanted to go over. But remember to, when you're setting your goals and the scary puke goals, that goals aren't meant to be reached, they're meant to stretch you. And so, yes, I mean, we want to reach our goals, but in the process of getting there, you're definitely going to grow. I think what he means by that is not just setting goals that you know you can reach. You want to set some big goals that are going to force you into that growth mode along the way. Okay, so that's all I have. So I want to just give you guys a chance to share how the first week on the tracker went. I know you're just kind of getting going with it, most of you. And then, scale of 1 to 10. How did that go based on action? So I don't want you to judge yourself based on how many yeses did you get this week or coaches did you enroll. Don't judge it based on that. Judge it based on how much action did you take. And one more thing I want to add with that is, and I'm sorry if you guys have heard me say this a million times, but it is just very important to remember that what you do this month impacts several months down the road. So Caitlin, I especially want you to hear that because you're getting started, right? And sometimes it can feel frustrating. And like maybe you do the tracker perfectly this month and maybe you sign up one person or something. And that doesn't mean that everything you did this month is all for nothing, because this business is very much what I do today is going to impact, 30, 60, 90 days down the road, because we're planting seeds, just like you watched me for a little bit, right? So just keep that in mind, that there's a lot of days you work the business that is like, well, did anything you really get accomplished? Well, yes. I mean, if you talk to people and you invited and you planted those seeds, they will sprout, Christina. I had a coach who signed up last week that I planted the seed. We started talking on Instagram a year ago, and she's just had her 4th baby. She's super fit. I saw her working out and stuff even during pregnancy, and I was like, hey, have you thought about doing this? And she just kind of does workouts at home mostly, just on her own. And she's like, well, I just kind of like doing my own thing, my own workouts. Well, she continued to watch, and then just out of the blue, and I checked on her from time to time and cheered her on her posts and stuff, and asked how she was doing when she had her baby. So just kind of built that relationship. And then she just out of the blue, a few weeks ago was like, hey, can you tell me what this coaching thing is again? Because I think I'm ready to start doing something. I want a way to work from home. And I'm like, oh, cool, you know. And she just told me, she's like, I just really relate to you. I've enjoyed watching you, and getting to know me even through Instagram. So, and I look forward to meeting her in person one day. I'm sure we will. But that's just the power in this, and just knowing that, you know, you got to just make that commitment to be here when they're finally ready to come around. Okay, so I'll just go around the little squares. So Marcy, you're first. If you wanted to say a scale of 1 to 10, how did you do on the tracker this week? I can't hear you. No.
I feel like it's hard for me to hear you, so
Oh,
that's why I have the headphones. But then I think it somehow messes up the microphone. Um, so I consider myself kind of critical. The things that I'm consistent I don't even think about anymore. Like I'm consistent in posting, consistent in the challenge groups. Um, Generally consistent with inviting most days, but so that's where I tend to kind of beat myself up. So overall, I'm giving myself a 5 because I don't feel like it was a great week. When I go back and I look at the numbers, I did not track well. So that's another thing that, like, when I have weeks where I'm like, okay, I got in all my invites and I tracked them. Um, I just feel like this week was Justin was gone for the week, which may have not helped. The solo parenting thing. There's always a transition, but he left and now he's back. And then it was Mother's Day. So then I tend to play catch up on the weekend, but I did not this
yeah.
weekend. So overall, I give myself only a 5 in the sense that I know I can do more and I can do better with time. And I just didn't do it. And I just I'd be interrupted by kids, whatever the case may be. So those little times where I normally would make up the difference, I didn't have them. So that for me, I'm trying to definitely make sure that I'm really focusing and
Mhm.
doing the power hour when I'm going to be most. Rachel Hollis talked about this in her book, where if you know that you're going to be able to be more focused in the morning, then do your power hour in the morning. It's going to take you twice as long to do it at night.
Yeah.
But then when I have situations where it's like, okay, I got up at 5 and then the baby got up at 5:30. And so then I'm like, okay. And so then I don't get to it till later. So that's kind of where I was this week. The kids were just not cooperating.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you
I
ever
don't
set
know.
timers when you work?
Oh, see, now hang on. Now I can't hear you. It's like the
Sorry.
weirdest thing. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you ever set timers when you work?
I do set timers. I have gotten out of the habit of doing it, so I need to get back into the habit of that.
That'll really help me, especially if I'm really pinched for time. Um, you know, so I'm not being a squirrel. Because I'm guilty of that too. You know, I'm supposed to be inviting, and oh, what's this Instagram ad? Oh, what's she doing? Oh, what was I doing a while ago? I was supposed to be inviting. Um, so if I set a timer, and especially on those days where the kids, it's like, you know, they throw me off because I didn't do what I was hoping they would do sleep wise. um, that's when let me just find like a 10-minute block of time right now. I'm going to knock these invites out while the kids are doing this, you know. And coming into summertime, I mean, I'm going to have all 4 home all the time. It's going to be quite interesting. And my house is on the market, so that's going to be even more interesting. But I've been really trying to be disciplined. It's a little easier actually right now with Greg being gone to go to bed at a decent time. So I'm going to bed like at 9 o'clock, and I'm getting up at like 5, and that's really helping me. So in the summertime, I'm going to work from like 5 to 8 in the morning, you know, and then the kids are pretty much up by 8, and you know, it's hard to get effective work done at that time. And then we'll do things, and then during afternoon quiet time, my plan is, of course, Caitlin will nap, but the other ones will still be up. I'm going to hopefully get them on a quiet activity so I can work another hour or so. But that's how I'm going to manage my summer. I would just make sure all of you who are home during the summer with kids kind of come up with some sort of routine, and set that for yourself, because otherwise we'll all go crazy trying to work with kids. I mean, I can't, like this afternoon, I was just trying to get through my Team Z because I didn't do it this morning, and I just had a few follow-ups I needed to do for people going into my free group, and they're like, Madeline's in there making smoothies, and they're like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't even respond to a message because every 30 seconds someone needs something. So yeah.
So I did have a clarification question, and this is just, I probably should have known this from the previous time I was doing the tracker, but
Yeah.
mostly because I was going back and looking a little more closely at what other people were typing. So I'm looking at the tracker right now. When you're putting on there like current numbers, I know this is like me being OCD, but the giant pink columns, is that like a tally for the week that you're adding? So if it says like successful 4, is that like on a Wednesday that you've hit successful 4 up to that point, or that you got successful 4 that day?
Oh no, I would just whatever you're at that point.
So
That's how I do it anyway.
okay, so it's
Like overall for the month where I'm at so far.
Okay, got it. And then when you put like recruiting, does that mean coaches? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like adding coaches? Okay. I assumed that was that. To clarify, there was a couple times that there were zeros, so I was like, well, it doesn't really matter at this point. There's zeros. And what was the other one I had a question about? Oh, I guess it's Saturday, you have content creation. Like, do you mean you spend some time on Saturdays planning ahead what you're gonna post as far as your content? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, Saturday or Sunday, I like to sit down and kind of look at my planner and think about, okay, what is my focus going to be for the week? So this is how I kind of structure my month. For the first like couple weeks or week and a half of the month, when I'm really trying to fill up my challenge groups and hit Success Club, I have a bigger focus on posting about fitness and before and afters and talking about my challenge group coming up. Then I shift and I go more to talking more about coaching and the lifestyle that comes with that. That's how I like to structure my month. I mean, but you'll see also though, I mean, on the tracker, he has you're doing a little bit of both throughout the week, which I think is good. But yeah, so if I, for example, I'll look at my planner, okay, if I have a free group coming up, I need to make sure I put a post up on Thursday and Saturday or something, to make sure I'm, putting some feelers out there to get people to join my free group. That's what I did last week. And I may write up a few posts. Like if I know I want to do a coach call to action, I can go ahead and type something up. You could put it in your notes of your phone so that you have that for the day that like you want to post it. Usually I do calls to action on like a Thursday night, for example. And so you want to have something ready rather than it getting to be 8:00 at night. You're like, I need some sort of call to action tonight and trying to figure it out. So having a few things ready. I mean, if you can plan out your whole week, great, but I'll be honest, I'm not the best at that. But I do try to have a few really good posts ready for the week. Of course, I mean, I don't know if you're in Ashley Shaw's stuff, but their stuff helps too.
I'm sorry, I realize when this is plugged in, you can't hear me, but I have a lot of, I do that kind of as well, but when I'm looking at the tracker, I don't necessarily want to say, yes, I did it on Saturday if I didn't do it on Saturday, but the reality is at some point I got to do it, even if it is.
Do it on a different day. That's okay.
So that because you were just clarifying for like, since this tracker, you're actually going back and looking at for this group, that was really why I wanted to know.
Yeah. So if you did it on a different day, no worries at all. All right. Or, even if you didn't plan out every single post, but if you got a few things and kind of have in mind of what you want your week to look like for posting, whatever works for you. Everybody works a different way, but just kind of having some sort of plan. in place. All right. Caitlin, how did you do on the tracker first week?
I will give myself a 4 only because although I post I post the product and I post my transformations and that type of thing, and definitely get into my stories, I could do a better job of my invites and that sort of thing. And that's just my own, I think it's my own fear of kind of putting myself out there. So even though now I've like kind of bared it all as far as my own personal journey, I need to get a little bit more comfortable with what I'm doing and get more confident about what I can contribute. And when I'm trying to connect to people, my biggest thing is that because so much is going on in my home life and personal life, I need to really get into the mentality and acknowledge this as the business that it is and as the job that I want it to be. So I kind of have to really focus on that for myself so that I can hold myself more accountable. I actually was waking up at like 5 o'clock also for a really long time. I probably did really long. I should say I did it for a straight month, and before the baby's schedule changed and then everything got thrown off again. But that was when I was most successful too. It just allowed me to get some stuff done earlier on, and even if it was just my workout, so that I didn't feel like I was neglecting the kids or I was cutting corners somewhere else. So my big thing is really engagement, and I just finished setting up my home office space because it was set up, and then when my job closed, I kind of put this, like I kind of backburnered everything, but now I put my laptop back in here and I started setting things up so that I have a space for myself, because for me, it's like really the details that matter. Like I need to be able to come and sit at my desk and go through my to-do list and cross things off. And that's how I'm going to be most productive. So that's what my goal is this week on the tracker, is to make sure that I get my invites and start following people kind of like you were following me. And that was a huge thing. It's like you were always there, like in the back of my mind, I always knew. And like every time I had a bad run or something and I was like, I do not want to do this anymore, I'd be like, oh, maybe I should talk to Kristen about those workouts and like about coaching. And then it was just like that final, push of being like, okay, I'm done with this. That half marathon is behind me, and now running has to kind of be behind me a little bit. Time for something different. Yeah. And it was just kind of like right place and right time. But because you were already in my DMs, I was like, oh, and the next time you showed up, I was like, okay, it's time. Let's do it. Yeah. So I need to be that person now for people. And so that's what my focus is going to be, is really start connecting outside of my own personal network. Although I do have one of my girlfriends came over for lunch this week, and we were just talking about our own struggles and as far as fitness and accountability. And she just moved back to the area, and I was like, oh, you should totally do this with me. And she said, oh, well, I did lift 4 and I have a coach, but she's useless. And she goes, you're who I need, because like my circle does come to me for that kind of a thing. So I just really think it's more about getting out of my own way mentally. You know what I mean? So I need to kind of apply that outside of my box to expand my network. So that is really where I'm going to focus in the next couple of weeks. Awesome. Just stick with the tracker and really, really focus on people that I don't know and following up with the people who I do, who I know for a fact are watching. So I have a couple of people I sent share carts out to, and then my girlfriend who I had lunch with is going to swap over to me as a coach. So even if it's just Beachbody On Demand, if we're accountability buddies, at some point I know I could sway her, and I know she'll come and do it because she'll have great results. So just like I did. So I feel like as long as I'm a little bit more confident, it'll go better for me.
Yeah. I heard a really good saying the other day about when we plant the seed. I'm going to talk about this on the team call tomorrow. Sorry, my cat likes to be in the way. That when we invite someone to join us, I don't necessarily expect a yes from my very first invite. That's awesome when that happens, but most of the time it doesn't. Or they'll say yes, and then they'll kind of ghost me, like, oh, I don't want to do it. because they're watching me for a while. And so thinking of your invites as, okay, now my hope is that I'm changing the way they view my social media, which is kind of what you did with me. Like, I invited you, and now she's like, when you do see my post or a message from me, it's in the back of your mind, like, well, I know I could do this. And so then when the timing's right, they'll come back around, or when you do reach out again, now they're ready. So it's just kind of you planted that seed. Now they look at things a little bit differently.
And
you open that door.
And the other thing is that this is like such an amazing, company, and it's popping up all over the place now. So whether you want to know about Beachbody or not, you do. And everybody has at least one friend who is coaching or who is doing the workouts. And when you start asking questions, like I was talking to this girl about it, and I'm like, yeah, that was the best part, is that when you posted to go on the cruise, I was like, what? Like, and then I started really paying attention, and I was like, maybe I have to go back and like look at all this again. And then I really went back and I totally stalked, and I was like, look what you've built. Like, that's crazy. And I'm like, you know what? That's possible. And I just feel like in the beginning, it's like, oh, somebody's trying to get you to hop on board with them, and you only know little bits and pieces. But then when you take a look and really say, let me kind of know a little bit more about this person, I'm like, wow, Kristen was so successful, and it was just because you pushed and you kept going. It wasn't like you had this crazy amount of weight to lose or something, but you were still so captivating because you built it, and that was huge, and that in itself was what I needed in that moment. And I just, this is really cool, and I think that the video chats are awesome, and I think a lot of that really, really does help just the engaging piece of it so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, awesome, Caitlin. Glad to hear, girl. All right, Sonia, how's it going over there? She's got a baby attached to her, and I've got a cat. Hang on. I think I unmuted you at the same time. Oh, should I keep doing it at the same time? You do it. I'm not going to touch it. Okay. There. Oh, we can't hear you. I'll go do Christina, and then you come back. If Christina's here, she's probably chasing one of her many children. Christina, are you okay over there? She was at a wedding yesterday in Houston. We just got back, I think, today.
I did. I got back this morning. And actually, it's a sad story, but the wedding didn't happen. So, yeah, she called it off Saturday night. It was really,
oh my gosh,
really depressing. Yeah, my little cousin's heartbroken.
Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah. So it was nice to still be able to like go to Texas and see family, but really heartbreaking to see him go through that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sorry to hear that.
Crazy.
Good thing we had that on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. So my tracker is like a 2. Because I posted and I got a few messages out, which I have to update the tracker as far as sending messages out, but I didn't get my invites out like I should have. And so, yeah, the invites were not there. And I didn't do nearly as many messages as I should have, or that was my goal even. So, yeah, not good this week. But I need to do the same thing. And I, like, when Marcy was talking, like, I totally feel you. I was getting up early, and then my kids started getting up at like 6 a.m. and I was like, no, this is not the way it's supposed to work. Like, but I'm just gonna start going to bed at like 9 o'clock, and I almost think just get up at like 4:30 just so I know even if they get up at 6, then I've been able to get in, you know, my devotional and my PD and just straight up do invites first, because you can always go find, you know, messages are nothing to do. So just get up and do those first
Yeah, if y'all find that
and go to bed early.
slacking is, so maybe do those invites first thing in the morning so that you know that that's done. So sometimes
That's done.
I can do that super fast if I go to my stories or I'll go to a post I did on Facebook, kind of go to 3 different places. I can't get them all out of my stories or something. And just shoot them out real quick. And then that's it. And go put them in the tracker. Or I know, like Marcy, we were talking to Brittany. She doesn't put them in the tracker until they respond. You know, however it works for you. If I can see, it just depends on the person, I guess. I don't know. If it's a brand new reach out on stories, I may not put them in the tracker until they actually respond. It is.
Yeah, I think I don't put them. I'm not as likely to put them in a tracker or count them if I can tell. Like on Instagram, you can see it, and on Facebook, if they haven't even seen the message, then it's like, you know, especially Instagram, you know, if it's people that are watching your stories that they're, you know, just started following you and they haven't seen your message, it's like, yep, that invite doesn't count.
Well, I mean, I still count it. I just don't insert them as a team follow up yet. You know, for me, that's just kind of how I do it. But I still count. I mean,
I guess what I do is like I maybe follow up once, and then if I see that they aren't seeing them, then I like really focus on just going to their page and engaging.
Yeah.
But I do know that there's quite a few Instagram accounts that they just don't really check their messages, I think.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But
okay. Well, maybe you can double up some invites tomorrow and get some
I will be doubling up. Yep.
Okay. All right, girl. Sorry to hear about the wedding. That sucks.
Yeah. It happens. I guess it happens, but yeah.
better
Poor guy.
than later, I guess. So.
Yeah, better than getting married and having a horrible marriage and then a horrible, nasty divorce too. So he'll heal, but
everybody flew out there.
Definitely sending him some love.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Sonia, did you figure it out?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I just switched to the phone. I don't know. The last time I did on the
you and one looking at your phone. And
oh, do you like it? Do you like my pineapple? I just like looking at the computer better. So as soon as I'm done, I'm gonna go back off. But here you go. I don't know if that helps. Okay, so it's funny because I see a wall on mine, but I'm not sure what I'm looking at. So for the week, kind of similar thing. You know, I've been playing catch up this weekend more than normal. Normally I do a pretty steady amount every day. But we have some crazy stuff going on at work this week. So all of my free time went to that this week, which shouldn't always happen. So also then I kind of just reevaluated after listening to this week's national wake up call. And so I've been really just getting my follow-ups caught up, because before, when we were doing the tracker, I was doing really well with doing invites pretty regularly for the most part. There were days that I wasn't, but and I was doing some follow-ups, but not 100% consistent. So when I look at TeamZ, I had a lot of follow-ups that I hadn't actually completed. So I've gone through, I'm almost all caught up with all of that. So my goal is by Tuesday to be completely caught up with all my follow-ups, so I can just be doing follow-ups that are supposed to be that day and doing them the day that I'm supposed to be doing them, and then continuing to build and add and adding to. So today I'm almost to the point where I'm gonna finish doing follow-ups and then finish up getting caught up on my invites. But yeah, so but that's kind of helped me build some momentum, I feel like, doing that. But I definitely haven't done as many invites as I normally do. But I have some share cards out there and some people from previous months that there are more follow-ups that I think are going to actually complete. Well, one did today, so yay. So yeah, so I'm not, yeah, so I feel like I'm setting things in place so I can continue to be more consistent. And it really felt like I honestly had the thought, oh my gosh, there's this stuff going on at work, I can't do this right now. But I was like, no, this is what I want to be doing. I'll handle this stuff at work and I'll still be able to do this. So.
Yeah. Awesome, girl. Yeah, well, I'm proud of you. And it's going to be weeks where it's not, as much as you want it to be. And I know, especially working full time, sometimes stuff happens unexpectedly. So yeah, you can only do so much.
Yes, exactly. But it's okay. We'll make it. And we travel. I was like all of it at once. Like, I don't know, they called me with some crazy news while I was like in an airport. And then they're like, can you call some people? I'm like, I'm about to be on a flight for like 6 hours. So, I mean, I have 2 different flights. I won't be home for like till 2:30. So I'll catch back up with you then and we can figure it out. So yeah. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? I went to California. Richard ran a half marathon and through the Avenue of the Giants through the Redwoods.
Oh,
so we went to Eureka and the beach close to there and hung out. And then we went to the Avenue of the Giants and played around in the Redwoods. And then we flew back on Monday. So traveling with 2 kids. Well, we had a ratio of 5 adults to 2 kids on the airplane, but it was still mainly me with 2 kids. So.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
How it works.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, well, let's take a picture real quick. Christina, you want to pop in here and we'll take a picture? And y'all can post it. Okay, ready? Oh, we're good. Jeez. All right, awesome, y'all. Well, thank you for being on, and everybody get some sleep so we can get up and get our work done early in the morning. We can check in and hold each other accountable for that. All right. Good night, everybody. Bye.